Thank you everybody for having me here. And special thanks to Roshi Seisan. Thank you very much. I'm really honored to be talking today for Sweetwater Zen Center. I always wanted to get to meet you, and I hope this summer we finally gonna make it there in person, me and Shishin Roshi. So my talk today is based on my recent book, um, The Zen Priestess and the Snake, a woman's path of transformation and healing through the discovery of the Great Mother tradition, and that the artwork is mine too. Um, and I had that painting like 20 years before I wrote the book. And before I start my talk, I want to say that in the book, but also I will mention some during my talk, spiritual experiences that had been sealed inside myself for a very long time. And I want to mention, it's a kind of a disclaimer, that these experiences don't make me proud or important or special. For the contrary, they make me small and vulnerable and unspecial and unimportant. And you'll know why. Because these experiences that moved through me didn't belong to me. They belong to the realm of the collective, and I am returning them to the realm of the collective. Before I wrote the book, I only had shared these experiences with a handful of people. In the book, I tell about my lifelong search for the sacred feminine in an attempt to understand the events that took place when I was a little girl of 5.5. So you might ask yourself, what makes me tell my story now? And there are three things that are very important to me. Be able to come out of my hiding place and tell this story. And one is the Inca Empowerment I received 2005 from Roshi Wendy Egyoku Nakao from CLA. And she wrote in my Raksu, in my Empowerment Inca Raksu, she wrote, you won't be able to see it, but it's really beautiful. She wrote, "Do not let die the wisdom seed of the great mother of the Buddhas. Truly, I implore you." And I was not expecting she to write something like that in my Raksu. I mean, really surprised me, but it surprised me in the direction that I want to go. So it was a wonderful surprise and also an incredible encouragement to continue my path. And the second thing that makes me come out now is what is happening to the planet. What, as you all know, the planet is in a precarious situation, and many beings around the globe are trying to do the best they can to help the planet. And after this year of pandemic, a lot of people are connecting with each other, and they have felt a lot of the pain and the grief for what is happening to the planet in this time of the pandemic. And a lot of people are waking up, and a lot of people want to help the planet. So my way of helping the planet is to bring consciousness of the sacred feminine. If I would have seen myself today talking about this like 20 years, 30 years, 40 years ago, 50, 60 years ago, I would not believe it. I would not believe it. But here I am. And it's wonderful. And the third thing is that most important is that our patriarchal civilization that is currently destroying the planet was rooted in the suppression persecution and killing of the religion of the mother goddess and the suppression of the sacred feminine. So I figure that it is very important to bring her back, because if things started to go wrong for the planet when she disappeared, because we make her disappear. Um, so I see that it's very important that we bring her back, and with her will come her vulnerability, her love, her tenderness, her care for all beings, the planet and the other planets too. So now I want to read you an excerpt from the book. Um, Very interesting. In the neighbor's house, there lived a boy my own age who went to kindergarten with me. His name was Gilberto. We became friends and we used to play together after school. One day, while we were playing together in the backyard of his house, he said he had to pee. He pulled down his zipper and started to pee just to my side. He didn't bother to cover himself. He was peeing so close to me that I could clearly see his little penis. I have never seen that before. Coming from my house in the tropical forest with all the animals that I used to play with, I thought he had taken a small animal out of his zipper. So I asked, "Can I touch it?" He said yes. So I quickly touched it with the tip of my index finger. I wasn't sure if the little creature would bite me or not. Then we continued playing. But it just happened that his brother, he had a brother maybe a few years older than him. His name was Pedro. Saw this incident, and he went to tell my aunt, and my aunt was a spinster all of her life, and a very devout Catholic. Ever since I arrived to live at my grandparents' house, she had taken me to mass. I had never gone to mass before, so and I didn't understand anything regarding the mass. But it was a pretty scary experience for me, because before entering into the chapel, we have to go through the hall of the church, and in this hall there were painting these frescoes of unproportionate, gigantic proportions. And I mean, for my eyes, I mean, they were so big, all these souls uh, burning in purgatory with flames that reach above their waists, sometimes above their necks, and their faces in this terrible torment that I just stare at them. I wonder, what have they done? But my aunt explained to me that that was only purgatory, that hell was a lot worse. So the church was not a good experience for me. That was the first time in my life I heard about something negative, something bad like that. But so I don't know what Pedro told Titi, as I call her, and I don't know what Titi understood, but Titi came and grabbed me by my arm, and without explaining anything, she just took me to the room where I lived, slept next to her. We have beds that form like L shape. And she told me that I had committed a mortal sin, and therefore I was gonna burn in hell. So I don't think I was able to say a word. I was completely in shock. I didn't know what I have done that she was saying that. She seemed, to me like she had lost her mind, but she told me I was gonna go to hell and I was gonna burn in hell. And I did. And I did. I did. And I just always wonder, I didn't defend myself. So I just visualized myself burning in hell with these flames. Oh, let me read that part. The very moment she said to me I was going to burn in hell, I wholeheartedly believed it. In my vivid imagination, I saw terrifying waves of fire wrapping all over me. I felt acute terror and my whole body shook with fear while I envisioned the flames of hell all around me. I couldn't stop crying and yelling in terror. I entered hell totally. If I thought that purgatory was bad, I imagined hell would be much worse. The flames would be a lot bigger and there wouldn't be the possibility for redemption. With my mind's eye, I saw myself being devoured thoroughly by the flames of hell. I was alone without any defense or protection. I didn't question Titi or blame her or defend myself in any way. I was told I was going to burn in hell, and I did. My mind's visions were so real that I felt acute terror. I screamed in tears while sitting on my bed. I don't know how long this lasted, but no one came to console me at all. It wasn't dark when my aunt condemned me, so she must have left the bedroom and came back when I was already asleep, exhausted from the panic, the yelling, and the crying of seeing myself burning in hell. I don't know how I woke up, but the next thing I remember is sitting up peacefully on my bed next to Titi's bed, where she lay asleep. From my bed, I saw in the center of the room, between our beds, the image of the most magnificent woman you can imagine. She was made of light, floating above the ground in some sort of white energy that resembled white clouds. And the clouds were moving too. Nothing was static. Her attire was made of different shades of transparent light blue and white veils that moved as if there were wind in the room. Her face and hands were like golden. The most incredible thing was that this woman emanated from her entire body an incredible amount of love for me. I was bathed in love. In and out and through me, there was only love, clarity, and incredible beauty. I was wrapped completely in it. I don't know how long we stayed like this. These things are outside of time. I stayed contemplating her until I had the idea of sharing this beauty with Titi and touched her gently to wake her up. The lady made a gesture of silence by bringing one finger up to her mouth in a silent shh. But already Titi was awake. All I could say to Titi was, Titi, look, Santa Claus. It was too late. The lady had disappeared. Titi did not get to see the Lady of Light. She seemed very frightened, as if I had seen a ghost. She tucked me in bed with her and covered both of us with her sheets and blankets. I could feel Titi's fear while she wrapped herself around my body. I felt uncomfortable when she did that, but I didn't reject her because she seemed terribly frightened, and wrapping herself around my body must have given her comfort. I felt tremendously loved by the Lady of Life, the Lady of Light, and I fell asleep with a softness in my heart. I remember how happy I was in the morning, running up and down in my grandparents' house and yelling, I've seen Santa Claus, I've seen Santa Claus. I later came to understand that the fire that I had visualized was purifying Dharma fire. Actually, in Tibetan Buddhism, this energetic fire is used a lot to purify oneself. So that's just what I did. So doing all that purification with my visualizations of fire, plus being an innocent girl of 5.5 years old, um, I entered in the Sambhogakaya realm. I transcended ordinary reality and I was transported into this realm, which was in the same room, um, and really saved me, Because then all that burning in hell that I had done turned into a positive thing. It was like, I do it again to see this lady. I'll do it again and again and again. And I keep doing it, still keep doing it. It was also that experience of thoroughly feeling my feelings of fear, of terror, that made me later on develop the Great Heart Way with Shishin Roshi, which is a practice that we use, the practice from the heart, where we teach people how to stay with their feelings and not to create stories about them. All came from that experience of trusting my feelings. Then after seeing Santa Claus, my family gathered around me. There were my parents there, mother, father, aunt, and I was just so happy. And they were all very serious. And my mother told me not to speak about that ever again with that tone. And my father didn't say anything. Nobody else said anything. But then after that, my father kind of started mocking me with a song of the Virgin Mary. So I thought, okay, this is not Santa Claus, it must be the Virgin Mary. Um, but I was very disappointed, seeing my parents' faces that they didn't understand a thing. I thought that there was something wrong with them. I really thought there was something wrong with them. I never mistrust what I have seen. Uh, I just almost took pity on them, really took pity on them. But then, how would I had continue living after that experience with this dichotomy between my parents' reaction and the realm of the light? I mean, I could have not been able to figure that out at 5.5 years old. So I did receive two messages that also, thanks God, I received two messages from these people. I call them these people because the lady definitely appeared as a lady, but there was nothing in her that was separate from the masculine. That's why she reminds me of Prajnaparamita, that although she's called the mother of all the Buddhas, she contains the masculine in herself. And then when my parents were still gathered around me, I received two more messages. And the messages, again, I mean, I saw them with light. I saw them imbued with light. The letters, I also heard it, but I heard it from inside me. It's like my body had opened up and these words were coming from inside me, like from my inner sky. And also, there were not the words of one. It seemed these were the words of the many, like the many and the one were indivisible. So they said, you will understand later when you are old. And this is now. And the other is, it is okay for you to forget about this for now. And, it was like so grateful that I didn't have to worry about that at 5.5 years old, that I could continue being a mischievous child with any worries, and that I will understand later. So I thought, okay, maybe when I'm 40, that must be really old, 40. No, 50, nah, 60, yeah, understanding a bit more. And now, yeah, I understand. So, especially with the planetary crisis, that to return to the loving, tender care of the sacred feminine is most healing for the planet. And she's also the planet. So, unbeknown to me yet, this episode marked the rest of my life. Since that time, I always had a yearning in my heart to meet with her again, and especially to find certainly, for certain, who she was. So I found clues here and there while I was growing up. The first clues were when I was about 11 years old in a Catholic school that I attended. There was a beautiful sculpture of the Virgin Mary sculpted in white marble. And she was like 5.5 feet tall, and her face was the most beautiful, tender, loving. So I used to sit in the first bench at Mass just to contemplate her because she will transport me to that time where there was only love. The only problem was that this sculpture of the Virgin Mary with tender and loving face, she was crushing the head of a black snake with her feet. And I just remember looking at her face and looking at her feet, and it's like, this is not possible. This beautiful, tender, loving, caring lady cannot be killing this snake. And I was only 11 years old, but I knew that I was not going to forget about that when I grew up, and I didn't. Um, so it was later that I found out that the snake represented the Great Mother tradition, and that Mary, probably a priestess herself, was used by the Yahweh priest to teach other women by example to kill the religion of the mother goddess. So, so the Virgin Mary was used, not that she did anything. And then, and then from here, I just ended studying archaeology in Spain. Um, I found out more about the religions that honor the mother goddess and the civilizations that honor her. So the leading archaeologists that study the excavation of all Europe and Middle East in the 19th and 20th century interpreted what they found in the archaeological excavation according to their own Judeo-Christian um, thoughts and beliefs, and discarded the civilizations as just fertility cults. But they were much more than that. And there have been more recent excavations that talk about the great civilizations that honor the mother goddess, that she was considered the creatress, the creatress of the universe. She was prophetess, inventor, and healer, and also the priestess that followed this religion. She impersonated life, death, and regeneration. She was revered in the same way that later the masculine god, but in a different way, because the inherent nature of the mother goddess was that of a benevolent mother, where there was not guilt or shame of the body. And it's wonderful um, to see what would have been if we would have been able to develop our civilization um, having a more feminine model of creation. Things would be very different now. And so mostly doing this work that I do, I continue my research, even after I wrote the book, there is so much more. And for me, it's about digging down in layers of all the shame that had been put on her. And a lot of people don't know that these civilizations existed, that did so much, that are actually our ancestral parents, that they were able to bring civilization uh, to for us to become the human beings that we are now. Was everything come from that time where things were very difficult, and we have to help each other, and we had to live in community, and we were in peace for many centuries. We were in peace with each other. So it's very important that we know that by the year 7000, under the guidance of the Great Mother, we had planted already the seeds of the first civilizations. We had a sedentary way of life instead of nomadic or semi-nomadic, which brought new ways of social organization. We learned to cultivate the soil, domesticate animals, make pots, weave cloth. We established agriculture and developed technologies for herding and farming, such as plows and irrigation system. We were able to build houses, temples, and villages, and to share in community life. We learn to cook different foods, create herbal medicines, and perform rituals. We live in peace and harmony with each other and the environment. However, since the year 3500, the religion of the Great Mother was the victim of more than 20 centuries of continual persecution from those who were promoting the new religions that worship the male deities as supreme. And the religion of the goddess, they were called pagans, as well as other religions that don't follow the male god. And they were tried to be exterminated. They're, everybody that was a follower of the goddess had to be killed. Like they wanted the whole religions to disappear. They wanted there was no trace of that religion. So even though a lot of temples were demolished, men, women, and children massively killed, and entire villages wiped from the face of the earth, many objects survived the persecutions and continue to speak of the extent and development of the civilizations that honor the Mother Goddess. And the final blow to the sacred feminine was the creation of the myth of Adam and Eve by the Levite priest of Yahweh. Here, the snake, originally a symbol of the wisdom of the Great Mother tradition, is now portrayed as a symbol of evil. Eve is accused of causing the fall of humanity. The powers of creation of women are taken away when we are told that Yahweh makes Eve from the rib of Adam and commands women to be subservient to men. Even in modern history, women have been persecuted en masse, including the witch hunts of the 15th to 18th centuries. The murder of women accused of witches escalated to more than 8 million. 8 million of our ancestors, women and men, were killed, mostly women. And these were only simple country women who had learned the lore of the goddess from their mothers or grandmothers. And the image of the goddess gradually vanished, but now she's returning from deep within the earth, bringing us hope for the future and returning us to our most ancient human roots. She's also bringing us a sense of resilience, equanimity, and big love to help us navigate the unsettling times that lay ahead of us. I'm almost done. I want to go a little bit over the half an hour. I'm almost done. I started to practice Zen because I felt that Zen was the path that would connect me with the Lady of Light. And it was because of the silence that I experienced in Zen. I thought that silence was the path that would connect me with her. And it did. And it was the path that connected me with her. When I was studying with one of my later teachers, I had an experience in which I experienced myself as the Lady of Light, which gave birth to all things. I wrote the following poem. Let me read it to you briefly. From the dimension of blue light, not even 1,000 steel swords can kill me. Free from life and death, my tears make the shining stars, and my laughter the oceans dance. I'm not a Buddha, though, but the mother of all things. So I went so happy in the morning to present my realization to my teacher. I was so sure he was gonna love it. Oh, he hated it. He hated it. And he told me if I wanted to continue with the Zen, with my Zen career, I had to forget about that. And I said, no, I'm not forgetting about that. So we departed, and it was very painful to depart from my teacher, but I did. There was no way. I mean, it was too big of a thing. It would have killed me, I think, if I tried to betray that. So I also realized that all women and people of all gender have the potential to experience this. So after that experience, like I said, I brought it to my teacher. He rejected it, but I was in such a heightened state of consciousness. You know, it's like I was not my normal self. I was a very heightened state of consciousness. So his rejection, yeah, it was very painful, but it didn't harm me deeply. And then so I continued presenting my experience. I went visiting teachers around, including a woman teacher. They all continued rejecting my experience. And then I met Shishin Roshi that had moved to the same town that I was. And he said, I just don't know. I just don't know. And I thought that was so amazing, that he was so honest that he would say that. And she said, but I encourage you to find out. So I had already set an appointment with Lama Soltima Leone, which I found some things in a book that she wrote, Women of Wisdom. In the introduction of the book, I found some things very similar to the things that were happening to me. And I went to see her. And she just told me that I was having Dakini experiences. And I never heard that word before, but it sounded so good to me. Whatever it was, it sounded really, really good. Yeah, from a place of being rejected, rejected, like, and to the place, oh yeah, this has a name. It was marvelous. And then I came back to Boulder and I told Shishin, well, it's like, it has a name. It's called Dakini. Well, I'm almost done. In the book, The Zen Priestess and the Snake, I talk about the influence of the Great Mother tradition, not only in Tibetan Buddhism, but also in Taoism and Zen. In the Mahayana tradition, she appears as Prajnaparamita, known as the mother of all the Buddhas. In the second part of my book, I include the ancient goddess practices. These practices are healing practices. To me, they are the healing practices of Prajnaparamita that can connect us with the sacred feminine in our bodies. So I think I'm over the half an hour of talk.